Hi there, and welcome to another episode of LogisticsSales.com. My name is Dean, and joining me today, as always, are my co-hosts Gail and Damon. How's everyone doing today?
Doing good.
Doing really great. The weather's nice, and we're so happy to be here.
Awesome. So today we're going to be talking about creating your vision. So stay tuned and stick around. Welcome back, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. Over the next few shows, we're going to be talking about how to craft your ideal client profile. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about creating your vision. I'm going to start things off today and talking about why a vision is so important to have. And, we can discuss some of these important skills. If you're taking notes, jot down, it provides direction, very important to have in the world of sales as you're embarking on this journey. It inspires and motivates you, which you need. And I can't stress that enough. It sets goals and priorities. It attracts alignment and collaboration. Again, we'll get into why that's so important, when we discuss this. And finally, it facilitates adaptation and innovation. And I'm just quickly going to, touch on that one really quick. Adaptation and innovation. Really, you need to be able to roll with your punches, because in sales, nothing is consistent. Nothing stays the same. And if you're not able to adapt and innovate, you get stuck in a rut and then you don't know what the next move is. But all of these are super important skills to have. And, it's, I think the motivation and, setting that first step, giving you something to shoot for, is one of the most important things to have with your vision.
Yeah. And I think us diving into this topic of creating your vision for one of our first, full episodes that we're diving into is super, super important, because before you make that first phone call, before you send that first email, before you go after your first customer, you need to have an understanding of what your vision is. So we're going to help you kind of develop that and craft that today in this episode so that you have a very, very clear direction on where you're going.
And you may already have a vision. Where do you see yourself, 5 years or 10 years or 15 years down the road? But if you don't, that's okay. You've got to start somewhere. So if you're tuned in today and you're eager to learn, we're here for you, and we're going to help you figure out exactly what it is you want. But you're going to have to ask yourself and see yourself where it is that you want to be. And without having a vision, it's kind of a roadmap to nowhere. So we're going to discuss this today. I'm looking forward to the episode because it's such an important skill to have.
100%. I think everyone needs to know where they're going in life. And that vision is just helping us get to our goals a little bit quicker. And having that sense of direction, we get to really put it onto paper as to, and get to see it for ourselves. Like, okay, what am I here to accomplish? And what are the steps that I need to take in order to get to achieve this goal that I have in mind, right? Whether it's a desired income, different relationships that we want to be in, a career, but anything that you want, a profession in sports, right? Everyone needs a vision to know where I'm headed. And when you have the steps in place, it's a lot easier to make that vision real. And I think that's the whole thing about having that. And, when you're able to explain your vision, that's how you get people to start jumping on board and helping you achieve that vision too. So I know for some people, it's not an individual effort. Some people require different people, along the way, whether it's educators, whether it's coaches, friends. But if your vision is clear enough, you know that direction you're going into, people are going to start joining you into that same vision that you're going into.
Yeah. And the fourth point I brought up was it attracts alignment and collaboration. And if your vision is, like Damon just said, clear enough and strong enough, it's going to attract like-minded people, and it brings people together. And when we're going to talk about sales, we're going to talk a lot throughout all of our episodes about relationships and how key those are in a successful business or sales relationship. And if you have the right vision and you're passionate, you're moving forward, it's that whole like attracts like, and you're gonna find yourself working with people that you really want to work with because they may share the exact same vision as you.
For sure.
Yeah. And I think when it comes to life in general, whether that's your personal life or your professional life, a lot of the time it can be scary. It can be full of uncertainty. You can have no idea where you're going, but having that light at the end of the tunnel is really what's going to guide you and give you the path to follow towards the end goal.
It really it helps you know what you want to do and keeps you motivated, and it's going to play a big role in your success. So looking forward to hearing back from everyone about what your vision is.
An example of someone that started from nothing, and it's a story about Jim Carrey. I'm not sure if you've probably heard this, but very famous story of how he went up into and how he would drive every night to Mulholland Drive. It's a scenic drive along the mountain in just outside of LA. And when you get to the top of this, it has a lot of scenic points along the way. And then when you get to the top, you really get this great overview of LA. And he would go up there every single night when he wasn't famous. And he would go out there and visualize himself of, becoming this great actor, how people wanted to work with him, how he was like a superstar, and just kind of really making it real for himself to be like, I know where I'm going. And he believed it so much that he wrote himself a check when he had nothing. And he wrote himself a check for $10 million and kept it in his pocket because he knew that one day, and that was the vision. The vision was having this goal of achieving a $10 million paycheck. And so he had obviously seen this somewhere or visualized this at some point for him to be able to do that. And putting it on paper made it real. And so, it wasn't long after, maybe a year or 2 years later, that in 1994, he received a check for $10 million for Dumb and Dumber. And that was the first movie that he was really successful at. But, going from someone that didn't know if they were going to make it or not to becoming successful, it was that vision, right? Having that future vision of yourself and knowing that, hey, I can get there. And even for Jim Carrey, I mean, he had a passion for it since he was younger. So it's using your passions of what do you know right now. And I heard stories about him, falling down the stairs when he was young. And people would look at him, and anytime somebody would come to the house, he would pretend to fall down the stairs. And people would be like, hey, what, are you okay? Are you okay? And he's like, hold on, let's watch the replay. And he would go back up the stairs and he would try to fall down again. But he would do it in slow motion, trying to sound it out and do it again. But, it would catch people off guard. But it also made them smile and made people laugh. And he used the talent that he had to create this vision for himself and saying, I like entertaining people. And originally it was just to make his dad happy, but then he was able to go and make millions of people in the world happy. And so again, if you don't know Jim Carrey, he's a great comedian and has made some amazing films, amazing career. So another example of somebody that had a vision and someone that's very famous that we probably all know and have seen as companies around is Elon Musk. And when we think about people that have visions, we think of visionaries and people in leadership. And this is where someone like Elon Musk, we all kind of have seen the developments that he's done with PayPal, with Tesla, with SpaceX, and he was even actually making companies before that. We may not have heard of him, but he started at a very young age. But he would probably always set the vision again for the next couple of years. And one of the vision statements he has currently is getting people to Mars by 2025. And so when he's thinking about a vision, he's thinking sometimes even when he did Tesla, is like thinking 10 years out, 20 years out, 30 years out, 40 years out. And so visions can be anything that you want them to be. And going back to like some of the key points that you were making, like when he developed some of these companies, they required a lot of innovation. They required a lot of collaboration. He had to really set his priorities for some of these companies to make sure he could handle it. And we're going to get into some of the skill sets that you have to develop to be able to do some of these visions, but it all enables you to grow into the person that you're meant to be. Right. And again, you're going to stretch yourself. And that's what visions are for and goals are for, is to be able to stretch yourself to go a little bit further.
And I think to add on to that, a really neat concept is he actually had to seek out people who shared that vision. Because you imagine somebody making a statement, we're going to have people on Mars by 2025, and he surrounded himself with a bunch of people who didn't share that vision. I think the road to success would be that much harder. So you could see that the importance of having a clear and strong vision, and then surrounding yourself with people, like-minded people that share that same vision.
So let me ask you a question. Do you think there's challenges that people will face along the way?
In this particular instance, but I think in all instances, for sure, there'd be challenges. I think just getting to Mars in 2025 has got to be a huge challenge. But it would be that much more challenging if he was trying to go it alone and not be surrounded by people that had that same vision.
And I think sometimes it's more about the journey than it is really the destination. It's about the connections that you make along the way, the skills that you learn, how you can develop yourself. There are going to be hurdles along the journey, on Elon Musk's journey, on our journeys, on your journey, but it's how you overcome them and how you surpass them that really defines who you are.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point for our listeners, is to understand that everyone, including Elon Musk, has faced multiple challenges. And so facing challenges along your vision is normal, right? Readjusting your vision is also normal. So don't feel obligated that you have to achieve everything that you set out to achieve, but it's like, how do I start? And then when you get faced with challenges, how do I navigate past them? And imagine the person that you're going to become when you start learning how to handle anything that's thrown at you in life. And that's the ability to be able to push forward. And if you have that in you, the skill sets that you're going to build is going to help you do anything you want. And you've seen it with, Elon Musk is a great example of building company after company after company. And there's not a place in North America that you can go without seeing a Tesla or seeing a Tesla charger. I mean, the vision that he had for that company, which almost actually went bankrupt in 2008. I'm not sure if you've heard of that story, but in 2008, they were out of money, and it was the last day that they had to be able to, provide the funds to continue on their operation, and they were able to get the investor in time. And so I would imagine that probably happened multiple times within that operation, but to see where it went from there to now is phenomenal.
And I think the important part for that is just knowing that it didn't just magically happen. There was a lot of work that went into it to get that investor, to make that last push to keep the company running. And that's probably happened time and time and time again.
For sure. Yeah. And that takes us into, how do we make it practical for you? And, we have worksheets that we provide with our episodes as well. And I'm hoping you've already downloaded this one and have printed it out. But, use it to outline what your vision is. What dreams do you have for yourself? What visions do you have for yourself? And just remember, they don't have to be massive goals, but start with small ones. Depending on where you are and what you want, start with anything. What do you want tomorrow? What do you want a week from now? What do you want a month from now? And just get started. I have a quote here from Marianne Williamson. It says, like a great athlete, we must have a very clear vision of what we want to accomplish before we make a move. Vision in preparation for an action is as important as the action itself. And that just says, if we have it laid out, we're more likely not to make mistakes along that path. And that, if we calculate the moves ahead of time, see it on paper, if we can visualize the whole process happening, we'll be able to flow through it a lot easier because we've already kind of see what the steps are that we have to achieve to be able to get to the goal that we want to get to. Which leads into our first question on that worksheet, which is, what is my current vision of myself for my future, and who would I like to become throughout the training process? So similarly to what you touched up on, Gail, it's who do we become along that process? Who are we going to become? Who's that future version of us that we want to attain? And how do I see myself being that person?
Yeah, you might be a student or an employee somewhere, but where do you see yourself in the future? Do you see yourself as the boss, the CEO, or do you see yourself leading your own company, right?
Which leads into question number 2. What type of business opportunity would I like to build for myself? So what is it that you want for yourself? It doesn't have to be a business. It could be a career. It could be further education. It could be building certain skill sets. It could be building certain relationships. But what do I want for myself, and how am I going to get going on that vision?
And exactly. What are you going to do to get there? And that's so important to know that you're a certain level, whether you're just starting out in sales or you're a seasoned, professional. Whatever version of you bring to the table today, tomorrow you want to bring, a better version of yourself, and you always want to be modifying. Your vision is, that clear path, that it's like a lighthouse, and it's setting you on your way. And what are you going to do to continue to improve, to get you closer to your vision? And I think that's really important to tell yourself that it's not going to happen, today. But if you do the right decisions and you make the right decisions today and tomorrow consistently, you're going to get well on your way to where, you have yourself set in 5 years or 10 years from now.
Yeah.
And then as we head into question number 3, which is what kind of desired income do you see for yourself for this type of opportunity? It's one of those ones where, our whole world is based off of, unfortunately, it's based off of money. We all need money to pay our bills, to buy homes, to take care of our families. So having an idea of, what's your vision, where do you want to be, and how much do you want to one day earn, whether that's tomorrow, a month from now, or 10 years from now. You need to kind of have that clarity on what do you want to earn. And then you can start building out the stepping stones to get yourself there. That leads us right into our next question, which is what type of potential clients will I need to approach to get this desired income, and how will I go about getting them? So once you have an idea of what type of income you want to earn, it really then opens up the door for what kind of customers do I have to go after? Am I going after multinational accounts? Am I going after, smaller to medium-sized businesses? What type of industries? You can start really focusing on where you want to go after based off of the type of income you want to eventually earn. Right? Some people are very ambitious. And so, the very ambitious have to have very ambitious goals. So you really have to start figuring out, where do you want to go?
I think a lot of this is just getting that visualization process going. What type of service or product do I want to be involved with? Who are the potential providers of this service and product that I want to do or experiment with? And then also thinking about the customers on the other end. Who are the people that I'm going to be serving with this product or service?
Yeah. And also, what do you know? All of us have our own skill sets. I'm assuming most of us have had jobs in different fields and industries before. If you have expertise, why not use that when you pursue your sales career? If you are very experienced in how to manufacture automotive parts, maybe automotive is an industry in sales that you want to go after because you have that bit of that knowledge and skill set already. So build off of what you already have and what you already know, and then expand from it as you move forward.
I think one thing that a lot of people underestimate is they'll overestimate what they want to earn, but they underestimate the time and effort that's going to take to get there. And we see a lot of this in training. A lot of people, when they come in first day of training, they want to make the big dollars right away. It's like, teach me everything I need to know right now. And I want to move ahead right now. But then it's like when you start telling them, okay, this is the type of work that's involved in it, we see a lot of people, the fear starts setting in, and they start not being committed to the actual goal. And question 5 and 6 is there to kind of help people like that to put it into a practical schedule. Okay, if I have a goal of attaining something, now I got to put in the time. So whether that's the hours per day, per week, per month, you're going to have to commit some time to actually making these steps happen. So use question 5 and 6 to put that into place for you.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll find under question 6 as well, there are some charts available so that you can actually start mapping them out. It's a really good visualization exercise to see, okay, when am I going to, do emails, do prospecting, do networking. So go through it and figure out, what does your days look like? What do your weeks look like? It'll give you an idea of mapping out what it's going to take in order to meet your goals.
And I think if you put pen to paper and you map out your time commitments and what I have to do between this time and that time, it makes you accountable to yourself. Only you know that I'm supposed to do this right now. Did I do it? And if I didn't, and I didn't get the results I wanted, I know the answer already. So, and that brings us to question number 7. What skills are you going to have to develop to gain this type of client? If you have that ideal client in mind and where exactly that you're going with the vision of yours, you got to be strong, verbally. You have to be able to speak clearly. You have to have strong writing skills. You have to have great negotiation skills. And again, as you're writing these down, you might not be the greatest speaker right now, or you might not have the best writing skills, or maybe you do, because we all have skills that we all excel at. And negotiation skills, if you're just new to sales, it's okay to not be totally experienced in negotiations now, albeit you've been in sales your whole life and have probably been negotiating more than you know. From the time you're born, you're negotiating with your parents because you start crying when you're hungry and then they give you something to eat, so you got what you want. So the skills that you have already, as you write down things you need to work on, give yourself some credit. Know that you do possess a lot of these skills already. You just need to keep practicing them, stay committed, and they'll get better and better and better.
Yeah.
And that leads into the time management skills. If you don't have them, writing them down and what I have to do each day again, makes you accountable. And the more you do it every day, if you have daily and weekly and monthly obligations on paper, and you're sticking to it, you'll see that there's a shift, and you'll start being consistent. And if you don't see the results right away, you will guaranteed over an extended period of time, as if you remain consistent, see those results. And two that go hand in hand that I really like are questioning skills and, just as important, listening skills. When you're new to sales, especially, I've seen this with some of our reps. They want to get started, and they've got the elevator pitch, memorized. They're on the phone, they got through the gatekeeper, and okay, here's my chance. I want to tell them the service or the product, and I can't wait. I'm just going to wait till they finish speaking. And they might be telling you something about a huge pain point they're experiencing that you might be able to address right away and gain that much more credibility with your listener. But by not paying attention, you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities. So you really have to start working and listening on your questioning, and even without asking the question, your listening skills, because sometimes your prospect will give you answers to questions that you haven't even asked yet. And another one is accepting information, being open to change. I said earlier, you don't know what you don't know, and it's okay. Even if you know something and you're so, you're so dead fast to go this certain direction, but if you do this just a slight change, or there's a certain way your customer or your prospect would like to see something that you're able to adapt to, if you're not open to that change, you could miss out on an opportunity. So it's really, as you write these down, I think it's important to look at each of them and say, am I this? Do I have this? What can I work on, and how?
I think when you talk about change, it's about handling problems that customers have, and that requires you to be able to adapt and be able to say, okay, can I think outside the box to help these people with the problems that they do have? And again, going back to listening and the change component, sometimes people don't understand, like, why do I have to change, as a person? And so explaining that is more important too, and say, change just means being able to listen and adapt. And it doesn't mean, but you're going to have to figure out the answers to the people that have the questions in sales.
Yeah. So find out what skills are you lacking that you can do some work on, and then give yourself some grace, because we're all learning. I'm learning on a daily basis. So is everybody else. We all have skills that we can continue to add to our toolkit. So figure out where you might need to be building on your own skill sets, list them, and then you have a foundation of what you need to start working on and where you need to start putting in some practice in order to become a better version of yourself.
And I think it's important to be true to yourself. Like, you don't want to lie to yourself. If you're at a certain stage and you have certain goals and you're developing a vision, and you're listening right now, understand that change is hard for everybody. But in order to grow, change is required, and that's really important. That once you understand that and you're open to it, the growth will happen. But you have to be open to the change.
For sure. And when you talk about a lot of the skill sets currently, you spoke a lot about the ones that are kind of more face-to-face with people. How about the ones that are for online? Like, that's a whole different set of skills that you may need for online sales.
Yeah, and with some of them too, even in face-to-face, sometimes you might not even speak to the customer direct. It might be strictly completely online, and that's where your written skills need to be important. And still, you can still listen through an email. There's still a message that's being delivered, and if you could pick up on it and you could adapt and address the needs even in a written email, it's just a matter of being focused, and attentive as you're going through the process. And really, as long as you stay committed and you practice daily and improving on all of these skills, it's you're well on your way.
I think that's where in the worksheet, question 8 and 9 do a deeper dive into these skill sets, because it requires you now to visualize the entire process. If I'm working with a company that is selling vacuum cleaners, how do I work with this company? Do I need to understand the technical specs of each vacuum? Do I need to study the competitors? Do I need to do some research? Do I have to understand where the logistics are for these vacuum cleaners, right? Where they're manufactured, how are they manufactured? What's our cost going into this? What can I sell them for? So everything requires you to start now visualizing the actual process. how am I having my conversation when it comes to their customers? Who are these customers, right? Going into the clients. If it's somebody that, for example, needs a vacuum cleaner, then I'm looking at, okay, well, what's important to them? Now I got to understand their problems and needs and try to visualize all that. So when I'm visualizing these concepts, what I'm trying to visualize is what skills do I currently have? What information am I missing? And what skills do I need to develop to be able to handle those inquiries that are going to come from these type of conversations, whether it's from the business itself or whether it's with their customers and clients. Because you got to pair both of these up, and you have to understand that there's usually a dual component to this, and requiring that, making sure that you understand, okay, who can I reach out to for gathering this information? Where can I go? What resources do I need? Can I hire a coach? Is there someone that can help me with this? But you really want to get into that visualization process to see yourself doing it. When you can see yourself doing it, now it becomes real.
Yeah, and I think it's really important because, 9 times out of 10, instruction manuals are super important for doing anything, whether you're navigating how to build a dresser or starting a new job. Instruction manuals are super, super important. So visualizing how you're going to get to your end goal and your end destination is like building your own instruction manual. Right? You're putting it on paper and saying, this is what I need to do in order to reach XYZ. So once you have that written down, you have the roadmap to then go forward for. Of course, we can always make changes to it. Like, that's the greatest part about this. This is your roadmap. This is your destination. So as you go through your journey, you're going to make adjustments as needed. But something about just having it on paper makes it easier to follow and easier to continue pushing forward.
So again, in today's episode, we're talking about creating a vision, and it's all towards crafting your most ideal client for you. And if you don't have a vision, that's okay. But it's the first step, similar to in construction when they're building a house. What's the first thing they do? They lay a strong foundation. And with a strong vision, you'll have the foundation you need to progress to that next level and keep moving forward. So remember, just stay committed, keep practicing, and stay tuned in. We're going to cover all of these things, and we're going to talk about things every week, but we want to hear from you. So if you have any questions or if there's things we can do to help, let us know, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.